As the United States ramps up efforts to reduce trade with China by increasing tariffs, imports from Vietnam have surged, according to recent data. Vietnam, which relies heavily on Chinese inputs for its exports, has seen a significant rise in its trade surplus with the U.S., reaching nearly $105 billion last year. This figure is 2.5 times larger than in 2018, when the Trump administration first imposed heavy tariffs on Chinese goods. Vietnam now holds the fourth highest trade surplus with the United States, trailing only China, Mexico, and the European Union. This complex trade dynamic has been confirmed by data from the United Nations, the US, Vietnam, China, and preliminary estimates from the World Bank. The correlation between Chinese imports into Vietnam and Vietnamese exports to the U.S. has risen to 96%, up from 84% before President Trump's tariffs. Darren Tay, lead economist at research firm BMI, notes that the surge in Chinese imports to Vietnam coinciding with increased Vietnamese exports to the U.S. may suggest that Chinese firms are using Vietnam to bypass U.S. tariffs. This could lead to the imposition of tariffs on Vietnam after the U.S. elections. The growing trade imbalance is occurring as Vietnam seeks market economy status in Washington, bolstered by President Joe Biden's efforts to elevate diplomatic ties. U.S. imports from Vietnam surpassed $114 billion last year, more than doubling since the start of the Sino-American trade war. This surge has offset more than half of the $110 billion drop in imports from China since 2018. Nguyen Hung, a supply chain specialist at RMIT University Vietnam, points out that Vietnam has captured over 60% of China's losses in key industries like textiles and electronics. However, Vietnamese exports to the U.S. are heavily dependent on Chinese components, with imported parts accounting for about 80% of the value of Vietnam's electronics exports. One-third of Vietnam's imports come from China, primarily electron.